Greetings and salutations. This is the ever awesome Imperator Vespasian.
And not very awesome Trust Psychic.
Actually, you've been pretty awesome. You won the campaign. You did really well. Hello. Today we're going to be doing the Type 95 Hargo Japanese light tank for bolt action. And if you think that's a long sentence, it is going to be when I type it onto a YouTube video.
I've seen very long YouTube video titles.
Yeah, we can only read the first half. Like, this is a Dr. Wilson video with...
Yeah, and then
you have to click on it in order to get people popping balloons on each other's heads with ants.
Russia Today, all the titles are huge and you have to click on the video to find it.
Yeah, it's like the Pentagon says. And then you have to click on it to find absolutely nothing interesting. Alright, I actually clicked on this video. I actually thought it was going to be good. And yeah, and there's a picture of a general with a uniform and everything, and you go, oh wow, that's going to be awesome. And then it's actually nothing to do with that, it's like ice cream or something. Anyway, that's RT for you. The Type 95 Hargo light tank was pretty much the standard tank. I'm not going to say standard light tank, it's actual standard tank of the Japanese army. That we fought. The Japanese did actually make heavy tanks and medium tanks, but most of them were hidden in Japan waiting for the end of the war. So
all of them?
Yeah, all the heavy tanks. So that's what we have. There was a heavier tank, which was actually a medium tank, light tank sort of thing, which we'll do a video on later. That was quite a cool one, but this is about the Hargo. If anyone buys a Japanese army, you're going to have a Hargo in it. I mean, a Hargo. You're definitely getting a Hargo, because everyone...
Weird Japanese names. Hargo!
Yeah, basically. Like the Chi-Ha. The Chi-Ha is actually new to it. So, I don't know what Hargo stands for. I should do, actually. I probably did at one point, but I forgot. And,
your brain actually melts after a couple of videos, doesn't it?
I actually forget more of what I know than I know, if you get what I mean.
So you know nothing then?
I know nothing at all. No. Nothing whatsoever. I'm ignorant and stupid.
You just use a good intelligent word. You use ignorant.
Yeah. So the Type 95 Hargo was the standard tank actually of the Japanese army. Bolt action wise, right. Well, it's got an armour of 7 because it's actually only classed as an armoured car. So it's actually an armoured car light tank. Movement of 9, which is pretty standard for anything with tracks. Points wise, okay, would you go for a expensive or cheap version of this?
Expensive.
Why?
Because it's the most standard tank you have, and having a veteran version of this could pretty much save that tank from heavy fire, and could kill any units a little quicker to help your infantry.
Yeah.
What would you go for?
I think I would probably go for veteran as well.
Yeah.
An inexperienced version of this will put you back 72 points. Regular 90, veteran 108. That is a huge difference in such a small light tank.
Well, standard, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We are playing early war though.
We're playing early war, yeah, so, yeah. Gun wise, it has a rather pathetic 37mm gun. It's not a very good gun. It's only got +3 instead of +4. So instead of +4 penetration for a light gun, it's got +3, so dead.
What's the Chi-Ha do?
Same gun.
Seriously?
It's no, Chi-Ha actually carries a howitzer, not an anti-tank.
Yeah, it does.
The anti-tank gun.
57mm.
Yeah. So this has just got a 37mm gun on it. It's not brilliant. It's got 2 machine guns though, and I have often said how awesome machine guns are. If you check out the tank in general, the tank has a machine gun in the turret there, and a machine gun at the front there. The reason the machine gun is in the back of the turret is not so it can fire backwards. That's only for retarded people.
That's what the post did.
Yeah, it's only for retarded people. In actual fact, you turn the turret around and turn it into a tankette because it has a machine gun at the front and a machine gun at the front.
Yep.
Or you turn it around and you have a tank gun in the front and a machine gun in the front. right? It's not actually designed to fire backwards. That's not what it's for. Why do people have difficulty grasping this basic concept of tank design?
So if you're fighting infantry, suddenly you have 3 machine guns going. No,
well,
two
on this.
Two machine guns going.
Yeah.
The other one does
3. So it's got 6. It's got 6, 12 dice.
So if infantry attacking, 12 dice right into their faces.
Yeah. So this tank will give you 8 dice in your infantry's face, or an anti-tank gun and a machine gun, which will give you 6 dice. 4 dice and then an anti-tank gun. So it's entirely up to you how you use it. I generally, when I've used this, I've used it as a machine gun variant only. So I just turn the turret and use the machine gun to fire with the machine gun.
I'll be honest, the last time I ever used these tanks was when we recorded that massive tank battle.
Yeah.
And they won the game for me.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
They did very well for you, yeah. There is a special rule with this tank as well, not only with the anti-tank gun, but it's also, because it is so cramped inside, you have to take a morale test every time you move. So every time you get an order dice, you have to take a morale test to see if the officer is actually looking out of the tank saying, yes, this is what we do next, or whether or not the officer currently has a boot in his face because the gunner is trying to reload the gun and he's crawled on the officer's head and the officer isn't allowed to give an order that turn. So that could end up quite bad, especially if you've got pins. So the more pins you get, the less this tank does anything, because you have to take a test every single turn you use it. So yeah,
I'm so cramped.
Because it's a tiny little cramped tank, tiny tank. In fact, I've seen one of these, and I couldn't physically fit through the hatch to get in. I'm too big to physically fit through the hatch, and I'm not huge. I'm not a huge person. You could get in and out of the hatch just about. Michael couldn't.
That's because I'm tiny, small.
Yeah.
And
you're Second World War Japanese sized.
I am really small. I'm the smallest person in the family.
Yeah. So you and your mum would be in the tank, and me and Michael would be walking behind with a bicycle.
Well, Japanese did use bicycles to get around, and it was more efficient than getting in armed cars.
Yes.
Especially in the woods.
Yep. So anyway, that is a downside to buying this tank. It's probably why it's so cheap, actually. They probably deducted points from it for having the cramped special rule.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably why it's so cheap. 72 points for a light tank is actually really cheap.
How much is it normally for a light tank?
Usually looking at 90 or 100 points. The Russian version of this, which is the T-26, that's still classed as a light tank. That's like 100 points, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, at T-26 is 100 points. Yeah.
Yeah, you're looking at 90 for this for a regular. So yeah,
that's
a lot
10 points cheaper.
Yeah, it's 10 points cheaper. Which, when you get 6 of them, that's 60 points. That's two suicide anti-tank bombers.
No. I get
a mortar team.
That's enough for a sniper.
Oh, a sniper. Ah, there you go.
That's an infantry commander. Just come along, pick you off.
In fact, that'll buy you a veteran sniper.
Actually, 60.
Yeah. So. So this is actually quite a decent tank. Japanese tanks do get a bad rep. People think Japanese tanks are a joke, but they were designed to fight in China.
100 times.
And they were perfect for China because China didn't have tanks.
Didn't they?
They had knocked off tanks from Germany and Britain and
mostly from Russia.
But mostly tanks wouldn't come up against tanks. They wouldn't actually normally come up against an enemy tank. It would be very unusual to actually face an enemy tank in battle. So, short of Nanking, where the Japanese fought their first pitched tank battle against the Chinese, until then, the Japanese were meeting tanks piecemeal, like 2 or 3 tanks together at one time. So the Japanese were able to deal with that. But so it does what it says on the tin. It is a light tank. It drives around and does light tanky stuff. Fighting the British in Malaya, the British High Command back in London, being very clever, sensible gentlemen, said it was absolutely impossible to use tanks in Malaya. Therefore, Britain will have no tanks in Malaya. So they were really shocked when 600 Japanese tanks turned up, drove through the jungle of Malaya and machine gunned all the British soldiers to death. And we lost because we had no anti-tank guns. Because once again, you won't need an anti-tank gun because it's physically impossible to have a tank in Malaya. Yeah, really. Yeah. The Japanese that.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
The
Japanese normally go around with bicycles. The whole army.
Yes. So yeah, that's the downside to it. They also use the train line in Malaya. They captured the main train line, and they used the British trains to move all their troops down to the rear of the British because the British hadn't put guards on the train stations. So the Japanese literally drove the entire length of Malaya and flanked the British army because no one thought the Japanese would use a train. That's just logical thinking from the British government.
Like Russia fought when they invaded Poland.
Yeah. That's it. That's basically all we have to say on the tank. Tactics.
I discussed my tactics.
No, you did do actually, yes. And I discussed mine, which is basically use it as an infantry support weapon, use it as machine guns, because the anti-tank gun is not that good. So, yeah.
Unless you're fighting these guys.
Well, if you're fighting anybody... Yeah.
If you're fighting that, then they're very good.
If you're fighting anybody with a large amount of actual real tanks, then you're going to be in trouble. Because this guy isn't going to stand up to them. But very seldom will you actually come across enemy tanks.
But what arms do these have?
What?
12mm.
12mm.
So it's about
Armoured car.
4 Pepsi cans or something.
Yeah. It was basically an armoured car. Not particularly good armour, but it didn't really need really good armour, so, you know.
No,
Anyway,
they were fighting infantry. That's it. In Russia, not in China.
Yeah. And Russia. They did particularly well in Russia until against the BT-7s. They actually went toe-to-toe with the Russian BT-7s and knocked socks off them, and the T-26s. So they did quite well, but the Japanese would try and get in really close. And this was a rapid-fire gun. The 37mm gun could fire 30 rounds a minute.
That's good then.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Is that 30 rounds? No, 15 rounds a minute, sorry, with this one. You got a lot of firepower. Unfortunately, in bolt action, every gun only fires 1D for some reason.
So if you had 3 of them, that's 45 bullets going ping, 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 ping.
Yeah, and the Japanese would try and get actually physically point blank to the Russian tanks, at which point the Russian tanks were dead.
I feel sorry for the BT-7s if they came round the rear.
Yeah. Because then you get a -2. So that BT-7's armour would be... Well, it is classed as a light tank, so it will be 6.
Yeah.
Whereas the T-26, that would be 5. So it would have armour of 5 with a -3, meaning you'd have to roll a 2. No, you have to roll a 1 to fail.
You know the Ariska? So is it basically like firing one of them? Because you know you fire, reload, fire, reload, fire, reload.
Yes.
So it's like 15 of them in one.
Yeah, you fire, it ejects the bullet. Well, the 37mm anti-tank gun, I've got a shell casing of one somewhere. It's not very big. It's not much bigger than an anti-tank rifle round.
Well, 15 in a minute.
So it's basically a bolt-action anti-tank gun.
Yeah.
It's not a heavy gun. It's a light, easily used gun, which has a very high rate of fire. Unlike some of your really big heavy guns, you're lucky if you can fire 1 round a minute because it takes so long to physically pick the shell up and load it into the actual tank. And also, the actual shell casing is often too heavy for the actual crew to handle, let alone anything else. Certainly a high explosive anti-tank round in an American Sherman, they weigh. It takes 2 men to pick one up. So you imagine trying to operate that in the cramped conditions with a Tiger tank firing at you. You're not worried about that.
I'm afraid that Tiger tank will only have to hit you once.
Yeah, I know, and you have to hit them several times.
Yeah. Point blank.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion about that one later. I've actually discussed that. If you go to our videos on our Tiger Shock video, Tiger Phobia video, Tiger Shock video.
Tiger Phobia. Oh no, it's not Tiger tank. But I think it's run away.
You get into the mindset of every single tank you meet is a Tiger tank, and you literally soil your underpants, which is what American crewmen did when they saw them. psychologically averse tanks. So that's it. That's what happens when you believe you're on propaganda. So that's it with the Japanese tank. British propaganda said the Japanese tanks are absolutely rubbish, and so it became as a big shock to the Indian and British and Australian infantry when they fired their rifle at this rubbish tank and it bounced off. Because it's still an armoured car. It's still a tank, and you haven't got an anti-tank gun. What are you going to do?
You're gonna get a lunge mine.
Yeah, satchel charges. The Indian troops actually strapped satchel charges to themselves and threw themselves at Japanese tanks.
Like a dead to tube.
Yeah, desperation, sheer desperation. Extremely brave men. And they'd get a lot of stake, the Indian troops in Malaya, because a lot of them changed sides. But if you have to think about what they actually went through, it's pretty horrific. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the video. Over to you for your last minute chatty talky thing.
So if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, and comment down below what you think of the Hago.
Yeah, Type 95 Hago.
And what you think of the Hago. And that's everything from me.
And that's everything from him. Goodbye.
See ya.